Hey, this is Jon Leon Guerrero. Today is part 2 of our profile on Claytoven Richardson and Larry Batiste. This episode was recorded sometime after the NAMM show and the TEC Awards, of which they were co-musical directors, and we reflected a bit on that gig and how the show went down. Part 1 was prior to the show, during the sound check and the TEC rehearsal. So on this episode, we get to look back on how it all went. We also discuss their prolific careers and some of the things they went through to get to where they are in the industry now, and what it was like growing up and growing into a career in music. Joining me as co-host is our guest number 1 and frequent contributor to the Break It Down show, James Earley. He, of course, has known and benefited from the tutelage of Larry and Claytoven for many, many years. And I never disclosed that he was going to be there for this show, so it was a fun reunion, and I'm happy to have been the excuse for it. Now, a quick word about why we do this show. When Pete and I started 570-something episodes ago, we wanted to expose everyone to acclaimed people doing interesting and brilliant work. We're very happy that we all have come together to learn and be entertained by some great folks, and we need your help to keep it going. So wherever you're listening to the show, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, please shoot us a 5-star rating and a positive review. That's all we ask. We'll do the rest. Also, if you'd like to support our favorite cause, it's Save the Brave. You can read about them at savethebrave.org. They are a certified 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to helping veterans cope with post-traumatic stress. You can read all about them and throw a couple bucks that you're not using to them right on the website. No kidding. Pete and I both support Save the Brave with our time and recurring contributions right out of our PayPal accounts, and Scott Husing does too. He also serves on their board. We urge you to do it too. We urge you to support whatever cause you see doing great work, and jump in and help out too. It's a fun way to enjoy your community, to lend a helping hand. It's always very rewarding. So, do it wherever you're doing it, with whatever organization suits you and you admire for the work that they're doing. We happen to do that for Save the Brave. So please consider it. Also, if you haven't already listened to part 1 of the profile on Larry and Claytoven, be sure to do that. But both of these episodes do stand on their own. So feel free to sit back, relax, and enjoy this conversation with 2 Bay Area music greats. Here are Larry Batiste and Claytoven Richardson.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This
East.
is Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick Marotta.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is Jon Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
This is Larry Batiste.
And this is Claytoven Richardson.
And you're listening to the Break It Down Show.
And now, the Break It Down Show with Jon Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
This is a very special episode of the Break It Down show. This is part 2, actually.
Part 2.
Yeah, of Claytoven Richardson / Larry Batiste profile. We started off at the TEC Awards on the Saturday night of the NAMM show, where we paid special tribute, inducting Leslie Ann Jones into the Hall of Fame. Well-deserved award. But what we want to say is that this was... How many of these have you guys done?
I think this was the 24th year of musical directing and arranging.
Musical directing and arranging the TEC Awards for that long, and I was very honored to be able to be there. My special guest at the table today is James Earley.
Happy to be here.
Our listeners all know James. He was episode 1 of the Break It Down show. Yeah.
Numero uno.
and we've been dragging him around every once in a while. He'll pop back in if we get somebody renowned enough in his life and his track. He tends to not miss those. So I had to put my hand up and say, James, guess who's coming over my house on Monday?
Not one, but 2 legends.
That's right.
So I was like, I got to be there for that, man.
Yeah. And he heard I was cooking.
That's right.
It's not a bad idea to show up for that either.
Free lunch, yes.
Right.
But to the start of this episode, so I'll fill James and our listeners in, was at the tech rehearsal for the Tech Awards. So we were there when everybody was loading in. So challenge number one, and you guys have done this many years in a row, and these challenges just don't seem to want to go away. No. Challenge number one. Hey, why don't we meet around 11, you say, and that way everything will be set up and we'll be settled down, and then we'll have some time.
You're right. Because the equipment is showing up at 9 a.m.
Right.
Yeah, so
I walked in and there was one tom-tom on the stage. That was it. There was not a drum set, and it wasn't even where you start.
Right.
It was a tom on the stage, and I looked around and everybody was just getting there. Yeah. So, and I shouldn't say everybody because the band had been there.
Yeah, Peter Frampton was there, his crew, everybody. Sure. Except for our equipment.
Yeah. Welcome to the music business. It's always that way. You know? Hurry up and wait.
We just don't know. You always expect the unexpected. You just don't know what it's going to be.
You don't know.
But,
So, you guys, though, weren't too frazzled. Everything started to come in. Or were you frazzled?
I wasn't frazzled. I was pissed off.
Yeah.
But not frazzled. I know it always comes together. And one thing was very secure about is the musicians and everything. Once everything is in place, I knew that it would be just fine.
Everybody had done their homework.
Yeah.
You know, you had a great band.
Thank you, sir.
You introduced me. It was a great pleasure for me to meet Melvin Lee Davis.
Yes.
Man, that boy is bad. And everybody in the band was terrific. So tell us about the homework that led up to the band being so prepared. We started to talk about that. You guys were in, I would say you started sending around charts for everybody to get familiar with.
Well, the whole process starts with Larry figuring out what songs he wants to do for the show.
Okay.
He gets that to me.
Do you just sit down and just start making a list?
Well, I figure out the show has a lot of presenters. So what I have to do first is research on the presenters because there's a lot of geniuses. I just don't know who they are at the time because they're all behind the scenes folks. And that's really fun for me because I look up the names and go, oh, my God, this guy, and it's got a scroll full of credits and stuff. And these are all people who are working behind the scenes. So, I figure out, who the presenters are and what song is mostly associated with them. And that's the song I choose. And I look at the band's instrumentation and see if we're able to handle that. There's been years like when we honored, George Lucas, and he's got the orchestra. We have an 8-piece band.
Right.
So, figure out how this is going to work.
You can't do the Darth Vader prelude.
I'm going to tell you one thing.
Well, okay.
Claytoven is a genius. He's arranging and putting the charts together, and I consult with him. Like we did this big band arrangement of Get Smart. I'm going, that would be really cool if we did that.
Yeah.
And I have to consult with Claytoven. Can we make this work?
I'm looking at when he first sent me the version, I was like, oh, man, okay.
There's a lot going on in there.
Yeah, how do I fit that? And then I had to think about it for a couple of days, and I called Larry and said, man, we can do it. Okay. We'll work it out.
So, but that's a lot of the, before we actually get to the music is figuring out what to do, who the presenters are, who we're going to feature. We always honor somebody with the Les Paul Award. So over the years, we've done Lindsey Buckingham, Pete Townsend, Paul McCartney, just big names like that. And so we, most of the time we play with them or,
What is the criteria for the Les Paul Award? What exactly are you looking for when I know it's not your decision to dole out the Les Paul Award, but what is the criteria?
Well, I think it's...
do you get a vote?
Would they ask for my opinion? They don't take it most of the time, but but Les Paul, who he is, and somebody who is usually it's somebody who uses the instrument, is used whatever technology was involved when it got to be that point. But somebody
use the mess out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine it has to be an innovator on some level.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
somebody's taken an instrument and done amazing things with it.
Sure.
But it's not limited to guitar players because, we've also done Stevie Wonder and other people.
So just innovators in the industry. I mean, let's face it, Les Paul, I'm not telling you guys, I'm telling our listeners who are uninitiated, all four of you, because everybody listens to this show knows, but Les Paul is really well known as a guitar player. He was an incredible guitar player, a wonderful instrumentalist. He was married to Mary Ford, who was his co-conspirator, musically speaking. They made a lot of great records together. And if you are unfamiliar, you should just go on YouTube and look up Les Paul, and you will realize that this old man many, many decades ago was burning.
Yeah.
He was burning.
Not only that, but he also, from what I understand, is pretty much the inventor of multi-track recording.
Yeah.
Yes.
So everything that we know about the recording process now really really began as a seed in his imagination that somebody could track. So we have him to thank for multi-track recording. The careers of guys like Stevie, who really just wore out multi-track recording and took it to its boundaries.
But just one more thing about Les Paul. He was funny as hell. I mean, he just had a great sense of humor, and he was the king of don't sweat the small stuff. So that has a lot to do with, in terms of performance, playing, just everything, just keep it light.
So it has to be a contributor who is just a positive vibe in the world.
Positive vibe, So.
Wow, that's nice. So all the people that you mentioned as winners, and this year the winner was Peter Frampton. Which is great because he's not only been a great guitar player for a long, long time. He's you never hear anybody say anything bad about Peter Frampton.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Peter Frampton.
Yeah, he's great. And what helped us out this year was really great. He says, can I bring my own band? Going, hell yeah. Really? I mean, that's less work for us to do, and then he says on the producers.
I'm sure the logistic people are like, well, wait a minute, and you're back in the back nodding, going, yes, bring that band.
Yeah, I mean, logistically, it was a little bit of a nightmare in the beginning, but we worked it out, weeks ahead of time. But, then he says, I want to bring my own back line, too. And the producers was going, yay,
Oh, man.
That saved all kinds of money there. But, just a great professional organization, great to work with. And, of course, we had less to do because we usually accompany the artist. So, doing nothing is my specialty. So when you say less work, Sure. So anyway, so it was good for both Clay and I on that end. But it was very, very
for
cool.
me, it was at least one day less of me being in my pajamas in front of my computer.
But logistically, it's a very small stage, and it only fits basically one band. That's why we usually accompany the people that we honor.
Yeah.
But when he said, I'm going to bring my own band, just weeks of trying to figure out how we're going to make that transition when we only have a 5-minute video that plays, honoring his life, and to make that transition. So
you have to scrape band one, which is all of you.
The stage plots have to be and figure out, we kind of put his stuff in front of ours, but there's limited space. Had to negotiate the drummers sharing a kit and just switching out the hardware, those type of things.
Moving some of the instrument, moving the bass around, moving people around to accommodate that quick change that had to go down after.
And you had 5 minutes to do it.
5 minutes. So that had to be kind of like staged and choreographed a bit, but it worked out.
So, and then just to give our listeners some context, really, if you can imagine the transition between an opening act and a headliner and how long that typically takes.
Yes, yeah.
That sort of puts some framework around what it took to do it in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm going to get us all some beverages and let you guys talk amongst yourselves because the three of you have a rich history. I'm gonna take a minute to get us all something to drink. What can
Just water.
Water's good for me.
Water.
Yes, H2O.
Right. I'm gonna get some water.
much.
I'll be right back. Please discuss your history together as Bay Area musicians, and I'll be right back.
No, I mean, even before we get to that, I just want to say I'm really excited to see you guys and be here with you. And even hearing about what you've been doing in the industry is just phenomenal. And at the same time, inside myself, I'm ecstatic knowing that we all go back. And it's beautiful to see cats, honestly, that look like me do well. It's always been great. Even when I was a youngster, even to be around you guys even then, it was like, wow, that means I can do it if these guys are doing it. You know what I mean? It's okay. So, I'm honored to be here. And just like I said, hearing about even what you're talking about, the subject matter of the award, honoring just the different guys, Lindsey Buckingham and Peter Frampton. I mean, I grew up listening to all of that stuff. I was a big fan of Fleetwood Mac, actually. A big fan of Frampton. And, what he did, the Frampton Live record, I think everybody knows that record from the 70s and the whole thing he did with the talk box, even before Roger. So I'm excited even hearing about it, like I said. And I consider even Frampton a great singer. I love his voice. So I'm glad he's still doing it.
It's really cool. Like, this show kind of works with the honors the veterans, people who have, icon. So, and it's really cool working with professionals. That talk about logistics. There's no kind of, they speak the English language.
Sure.
So everybody's just trying to figure out what needs to be done and, that kind of thing. So it's just an honor working with grown folks.
And I think going back to what we were talking about a minute ago, it makes it easy just to even do that transition that you were talking about. You're working with pros, so everybody's kind of been there before. Look, we got 5 minutes to move this equipment from here to here. We pretty much all done that before. The festival shows, the concerts where there's 15 bands and we're all sharing the same stage or, the same drum set or whatever it is. And it's got to make sense.
Well, I know that it could be done, back before all the technology and stuff, I used to go to the Grammy show. I think I just went to my 40th Grammy Award show. And so this is, I remember back in the day before they had the computers and everything, changing the sets, where they used to be 20 people on one side, 20 people on another side, and they all would have something in their hands. And when
all
they went to
black.
when they went to commercial break, they all walked across the stage, and there was a whole nother set there. So talk about that type of organization, and just seeing how it's developed with the technology and all that now that's all on computers. They still run the show, but it's all computer, But just going back there, that it can be done. So so it's good.
Yeah. Wow.
It's funny that we've taken advantage of technology in so many different ways. And when it comes to running a show that size, that it was able to touch, everybody's imagination. So somebody's job is making that logistical stuff happen. And you got these enormous operations that have to cross paths. And like Clay, you said, everybody was in black. So that you could get that executed on the stage with a minimal amount of distraction. And our musician listeners, will know the uniform. Sideman black.
That's what it is.
Man.
Don't even question it. Just show up in black.
I mean, it's just amazing to me, not only just from the show point of view, but even just for me, for what I do with the show, which is really working on all the arranging and things. In the beginning, I was doing things, writing scores out by hand and writing parts out by hand. And now, with, serious programs like, what's my I use it so much I forgot the name of it. But being able to put my stuff in there, play the parts as I hear them, correcting and all that kind of stuff, and then just being able to say, okay, I want to print all these parts. And the machine itself automatically transposes everything to the proper key, and
for the various instruments.
Without me having to think about it.
Right. And like you get to separate everything out. Automate that process. Send everybody their parts. You're emailing them,
making PDFs. Uploading it to my favorite place, Dropbox. And
not a sponsor. Get with it, Dropbox.
All of the musicians have a link to a special folder I put there, and they could just go in there. And by the time we get there to rehearse, they've already figured it out, have looked at the parts and know what's going on and made their notes. And
so here's the funny thing about doing the show and how your evolution in putting on this show for 24 years has been affected by technology, and that is that it used to be that the skill set that you had was tremendous in your value to be able to do all the transposing and get everybody their charts. Now that you've been able to automate that process, it just, on the one hand, some people are going to go, yeah, but that's going to be a lost skill.
Yeah, it used to be. Well, that's what a copyist would do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Their name was the person that did that. That would basically take the charts from you and then transpose.
Yeah.
I mean, still though, the art is still there. You still have to understand the ranges of the instruments,
Right.
And how when you transpose things, if it's going to be in the right range or not. You still need to know those things.
Voicing and things like that, you know.
You write out some notes and then give it to a trumpet player, and he's looking at it like, what the heck? I can't
play this. What are you trying to do to me, man?
I mean, to transpose, but, it might not be what it needs to be transposed to.
So we do a 1 3-hour rehearsal before the show. So we do a 3-hour rehearsal for a 3-hour show. So
this is how prepared you must be. You get one rehearsal.
That's right.
It's going to be 3 hours.
So we have 54 walk-ons for this show. And so, that's a lot of pieces of music, and all the music is different. All the walk-ons are different.
Right.
And then especially if we had feature performances.
Yeah.
So you imagine how little time we have, and so how prepared you have to be. So thank God they get their MP3s and charts, a couple of weeks ahead of time.
Yeah.
So.
And let me just say, the only way to do that clearly is to work with accomplished musicians.
Pros.
I'm sure that's all you have.
It's important to work with musicians that understand the concept of
the audible
rehearsing.
Sure.
At learning.
Preparation.
Yeah, learning the
prepping.
part is not
So that when we
rehearsal.
get to the rehearsal, we're not learning; we're actually rehearsing.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's just punctuate that for our young listeners, young musicians out there.
That's really crucial. Of course,
It's one of those things that get you hired the next time.
Oh yeah, rehearsal is not for learning. A lot of cats get that twisted though.
Right,
They show up and they don't know anything. They want to learn it at the rehearsal.
We've all been in those bands where you thought, man, I thought this band was going to be smoking.
Right.
What are we doing here? Where you get frustrated because you learned all the parts, you knew all the stuff. Everybody had the same amount of preparation time, and people come in unprepared, not know where the changes are. And
the problem with young folks, and I've been seeing this a lot they feel like they can come there and they may have the talent to be able to learn stuff and really make it happen. The part of that they're losing out on is in their process of preparation and really getting things together. When you learn something so well that you know it backwards and forwards, it makes it that much easier to be able to ad-lib and add to it and change it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And also
change it in meaningful ways.
And let me say also respecting the fact that your arrangement that you've written out is probably different, even a little bit likely different from every other time they played it with anybody else. So don't show up thinking, I know it just because I know the song.
Because they're not jamming, it's actual parts.
Right.
For a while, Will Lee, the bass player from the old Letterman show, he hosted maybe 2 or 3 years, and we would always play and stuff. So I was saying to him, I go, God, you look like you're having so much fun on TV, And he says, yeah, because I'm working my ass off all day. I spend 5 or 6 hours learning the music and stuff so I could have fun. So when I'm on TV, my head's not buried in the charts.
Right.
I know the part. It's just like a little place marks, whatever. And I'm having a great time because it's television. And that is basically how to do that. That's how to have fun.
You're right.
Is to know your stuff.
Yeah, it's absolutely true that every time you saw that Paul Shaper band on Letterman, everybody looked like they were having a great time.
Oh, yeah.
And it's because everybody worked.
Right.
So let me ask you about the arrangement process, because one of the things that we saw that was true about the TEC Awards, and I'm sure it's true about all the award shows, is somebody gets surprised. Oh, wait, we won?
Yes.
I didn't think we were going to win. And then they're looking around like, well, are you going up? I didn't know. I wasn't aware that we were. And then everybody's looking around like, well, who's going up? Meanwhile, you're playing the walk-on music.
Right, exactly.
So when you composed this chart for how many walk-ons did you say there were?
54.
54. So when you compose these 54 compositions for the walk-ons, is there a section in the middle where you go, this is the section where we're going to
loop?
Yeah.
Loop.
And then you're calling an audible for here's where we're going to come out of the loop because they're on the stairs now.
Yeah, usually there's a part where it's open space where somebody could solo, might be able to verse section or whatever. And so everybody's always prepared that if I point to you, you solo right there.
Right.
Just, and then we go back to the head or whatever. Yeah. So there's ways of stretching it all the time, so I'm never really worried about.
And the charts are put together. The charts are put together as loops.
Okay,
Sure.
So you've got it's modular.
Yeah.
Well, there's an A section, a B section, and
Yeah,
so
they're
on
put
and so
together.
forth.
So if something needs to be repeated, it's easy for Larry to just repeat from letter A to B. Just keep doing that. You know what I mean? It's just the charts are built like that.
Oh, that's terrific. Yeah. That's a really, really cool inside thing that I'm glad you guys are sharing.
But also,
because our listeners right now are going, "Well, that's how they do it."
Yeah. Well, I was going to say also a great musician, a good musician knows to be ready for that anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just wait for the cue because we're going to go back to either A or B.
Right.
So whenever Clay or Larry says, that's when we're going there. Be ready for that.
Did you guys? There was an old Smothers Brothers bit boy. I'm like the oldest one here. There's an old Smothers Brothers bit where
Oh yeah, me too.
they were doing a thing, and then one of them would say to the other one, they'd be going in the middle of the thing, and he'd go take it.
Right.
And then the other one would go, and then he'd go take it, and he'd hand it back, and then they started just going, well, take it. You take it. I'm taking it. You're taking it.
Right.
And then it was like they stopped and was like, well, you have to take it. It's in the union bylaws that when I say take it, you have to take
Well,
it.
it's funny that you mentioned that because they, just on the note of what we're talking about, they were a comedy team, legendary at this point,
Yes,
comedy team, but they too are phenomenal musicians.
It was
Yes,
because of their timing that they were as funny as they were.
Yeah.
So, and that all came from that. But it's cool to hear that that's how those things are built because you guys have 54 opportunities to ad-lib every time somebody's walking on.
Yeah.
And everybody takes that for granted. It's like, I'm going to do my walk. Oh, my shoe. And then suddenly you're like, where are we going? Oh, don't worry. We got it covered.
Stretch.
And it's great to have the kind of musicians.
Yeah.
Man, I was telling you before, the biggest thing for me is getting to that first rehearsal, the day before. And, I hear all these things, because I don't, there might be set songs that, we all know, whatever, but I never arrange them exactly like this, I got to put my own.
Yeah, well, that's why we hire artists, right?
I gotta put my own little
you
thing
bring
in
the
it.
artist so that you can bring the artistry.
So, I'm at this point, I'm only hearing these things in my head. And it's really incredible to get there and have such great musicians. And when Larry counts it off, and I'm hearing this stuff, and I'm sitting there going, wow, that is like crazy.
better even than what you imagined.
It's like
that still happens.
Still
I
happens.
mentioned before that the very first TEC Awards I did, it was in New York. I didn't know anybody and no musicians. So my friend Tom Barney, I mentioned this story
Let's please slow down on this story because this story is so good.
So I called him because at that time he was musical director for Steely Dan. He was the bass player for Saturday Night Live. I met him when he was playing with Luther. He knew all the musicians. And so I called him and said, man, I got this gig. Could you put together a band for me? And
who did you... like I said, I'm trying to slow you down here because here's Tom Barney. You get this gig to MD the TEC Awards, and you're from here in California. The TEC Awards are in New York. You got to put together a New York band because you can't fly everybody you want from out here.
Right.
You got to put together a New York band. How many people did you know in New York?
I didn't know any great musicians like the ones he found.
So it wasn't like you had a big, vast book that you could start churning through. You really needed help.
In fact, the only one I really trusted was Tom Barney because he was phenomenal. And
how did you know Tom?
I knew him because we met through a mutual friend, and he was playing with Luther Vandross at the Circle Star.
Okay.
And so I went to that show, and we became friends.
At the Circle Star. Will you tell me what year that was?
I can't.
Okay.
But it was
something around 24 years ago.
It was
It's
over
Circle
24
Star.
years ago.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Circle Star. I must have been, I don't know, 7 years ago or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I called him because you can't trust the union. You can't call union musicians. So, and when I arrived, the bottom line was it was the Steely Dan rhythm section was my first house band. And so I thought of that because you're talking about that you have the charts But when they started playing, I'm going like, is that all that written there?
Right.
That's like, hey man, I got I'm doing this thing and we're having a family reunion and I need to throw together a softball team. Yeah, well, we got you the Kansas City Royals.
Right, exactly. So the bar was set really high from the
very beginning.
But it goes back to earlier what we were talking about, the caliber of the musicians. They took the charts, they practiced them, they learned things, so that when they got to the gig, they could actually stretch.
They got to have some fun,
and add their own little thing to it. You know what I mean, without going too far from the.
Well, let me ask you this: did you do that with one single rehearsal? Has that been a tradition?
Same thing, one rehearsal. But this is the deal: is before we could send things over the internet, because I don't think there was no internet.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Time, I was FedExing. I would FedEx the charts to the musicians.
Overnighting.
For like $32 a pop.
Yeah, it was very expensive to do that. It was crazy.
People took it seriously when they got that FedEx, though.
Yeah, they did.
They went, oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, again, when you have geniuses like these two, you have to hire really genius musicians as well to execute it properly. Yeah. It's kind of like Quincy Jones. I mean, you can't play for Quincy and not be incredible. Stevie Wonder has probably the best keyboard players playing behind him. That's where the bar is.
Yeah. Well, that's true. However,
it's a team.
When you're doing this award show for your first time and it's on the other side of the continent, I'm sure your confidence isn't in that same place.
Well, yeah, the first time was a little, you just wondered, and everybody in the audience was like, who the hell is this person? They never heard of me. You know, I'm from Oakland, they're from New York, you know, that kind of thing.
Hey, this is P.A. Turner from Lions Rock Productions. We create podcasts around here. And if you, your brand, or your company want to figure out how to do a podcast, just talk to me. I'll give you the advice on the right gear, the best plan, and show you how to take a podcast that makes sense for you, that's sustainable, that's scalable, and fun. Hit me up at pete@breakitdownshow.com. Let me help. I want to hear about it.
You know, I'm from Oakland, they're from New York, you know, that kind of thing.
And then you get there. Tom sets you up.
Yes, he set me up. The other thing that set me up, there was a guy.
Who was the Steely Dan rhythm section at that time? Do you remember?
I don't remember the names.
Okay.
But, you know.
This was, I mean, you're talking about the early to mid 90s.
Yeah.
So we might be talking about Ricky Lawson.
Chuck Rainey, maybe?
Yeah.
Chuck Rainey, yeah. No, well,
Chuck I think was Tom was playing bass because Chuck had, I think he had quit being on the road by then.
Okay.
Yeah.
But still,
anyway.
I mean, everybody in that band was spectacular, and they delivered for you.
Yeah.
And so it became very difficult, potentially impossible, to hire anybody else, at least to consider anybody else. You go, well, here are the guys that are getting the job done every year after year.
That year extra hard for Larry as well. I mean, those earlier ones hard for Larry as well. Not only just the shipping of the charts, but I wasn't going there to do what I normally do. If there's something wrong with the charts, right there with my computer, I can change the charts, put some new stuff, boom.
Yeah.
That wasn't there.
Yeah, you could make a correction on the fly.
Plays there at the rehearsals, and if we discover we want to change something, whether he's right on it at the rehearsal, boom, print it out. The chart is there.
Yeah,
you know, so everybody we have to use the pencils and the
So in the beginning, you know, it wasn't in the budget for me to go there and be there part of the thing. And so if there's some mishap, it was
good luck.
Yeah, it was,
man.
Bring a pencil with you.
But you know, that's again. Great musicians.
The caliber.
It was easy for them to go and say, okay, let me, change this and change that. Okay, we cool. You know what I mean?
So the caliber of the cat always has mattered.
Yes.
That goes back to our earlier point, though. With the new tools that allow you for that kind of flexibility, some people would say that, well, maybe there's a talent that used to be that's not necessary anymore, and it's too bad. It's a shame. However, the flip side of that is you get to get more done.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now what you've done is you've transferred all of that mental energy into a different place where you can raise the bar in another category.
See, my thing that I always say to people all the time when they talk about, I bought Pro Tools, I bought this, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And I'll say, and my thing to them always is, just because you know how to carve a turkey doesn't make you a surgeon.
The thing is still, you can have all this technology, you still have to have talent.
You got to have talent.
Yeah.
You got to know what you're doing.
You know what I like almost as much as I like music metaphors.
Well, I mean, you have to still know what you're doing. It's an art form, and really all of this technology winds up just being tools.
To help.
It's true. It's true.
And that's all it is. But we still have to roll up our sleeves and get to work, and the music has to be made.
Yeah.
And people are listening, and they want to hear good. They want to hear quality. They want to hear great.
It's like, man, I got this fancy new paintbrush that does all this stuff that other paintbrushes have never done.
Right.
Well, paint.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Start painting.
But if you got somebody who really, really is a great painter,
Yeah. They're going to do things with that brush.
Yeah, and then, oh wow, I can do some new things with this.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you have someone who really doesn't know what they're doing, they're still trying to learn the craft while trying to figure out.
While trying to learn the tool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
So, given the setback in in the gear showing up late, I'll tell you from the audience perspective, and I was fortunate enough to watch from the press box, and I was in the front row, so I was keeping my eye on you guys. Looked like it went off without a hitch.
It really did. Yeah. I mean, once everything is in place, we just made up for the lost time.
Yeah.
And,
Plus, we have kind of like we've been working together for so long that we kind of fall into jobs. At the thing, Larry was really concentrating on making sure the equipment was together, things were going, being put together properly, making sure some of the artists that were there were comfortable and weren't going through a whole lot of trips behind the things being late.
Yeah, and they could be confident in all the stuff going to be there when they
My gig then became, okay, where's the dressing room going to be for the band? Let's make sure we get all the parking passes together. Let me make sure I get all the backstage passes together. So it's kind of weird. We just fall into this vibe.
We just kind of do what needs to be done.
Yeah.
So we were hanging out with you guys that day, Pete and I, when we were doing our conversations, and they were handing out backstage passes, and Pete and I both got one. Did we take somebody's backstage pass?
No.
Okay,
it's
good.
all good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, we had such a great time watching the whole event unfold because we were looking for where the challenges were. We were looking, from a technical level, what you guys were doing and where you might have to make up for something not going right. And everything went pretty smoothly.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to have seen that. I'm also glad to have seen that the musicians were so prepared because they had a great time. They got to do things that you could see them vibing on each other. You could see them giving each other the look for the, here's where the close is, and we're ending on one, and it was just a lot of fun to watch. Let's acknowledge the musicians. Of course, we mentioned Melvin Lee Davis, the tremendous bass player that we were honored to talk with.
Yes.
Let's talk about everybody else in the band. The drummer.
Wow.
That's his discovery.
Yeah.
Bean, Mr. Bean. Man, I met him years ago in this. I teach at this camp in L.A. called Vocalize You every summer, 10-day camp, major vocal camp. And they do this whole thing where they have open mic every night. And the drummer for that band was this little 15, 16-year-old kid that was just like killer. And so over the years, he and I just, would hang, and I started hipping him to drummers that could give him lessons and really have us thing together. And then one year, Larry couldn't find our typical drummers that we use weren't available. Larry came to me and said, "Hey man, you know anybody?" And I said, "Hey man, you got to try this cat, man."
Let me just interject one thing. The drummer before him was Will Kennedy.
If you want to know where the bar is.
Will Kennedy plays with the Yellow Jackets, and I've used him on Grammys, and we grew up together. He's our little brother. He's a monster.
Yeah.
And so he has some big shoes to fill.
He has some big shoes
Continue.
to fill. And then he came in. And
may I just interject that I would love to have Will Kennedy on the show. Will you guys help me set that up?
Well, he'll be in town on Wednesday. We can see.
On Wednesday? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll make that happen. Okay.
And so we get to rehearsal, and of course, he's kind of like scared out of his mind. So he's playing real timid. And he's playing the parts, but he's just playing like real stiff.
Just real reserved.
And Larry's like looking at me, he comes to me and says, man, I don't, So I pull him aside and I say, look here, man. The reason why we hired you is because of you, because of what you can do and your playing and your abilities. The chart is just there just as a guide. But I think what Larry needs to hear is you.
Because his head was really in the book.
Yeah.
And he wanted to be so right. And he was reading, I'm going, you got to just have fun.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then he finally just like
Let loose.
Up. Oh,
What's his name?
Jaden Bean.
Jaden Bean is his name. Mm-hmm. So that's the drummer.
Yeah.
And want to say anything else about him?
Man, that he's just happening. He's been playing in all these like serious.
Yeah, he's bad.
Bands.
He's bad.
Yeah, he's bad.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We've had some bad drummers on this show. We've had Rick Murata, J.R. Robinson, Stuart Copeland.
Wow.
And, of course, Richie. Jaden's bad.
Yeah, Jaden. Yeah, he's bad.
He did a great job. He was really attentive. It was really neat to see the way that he used the tools. Being a drummer, I'm extra vigilant in watching how guys approach the cymbals. How they're fitting things in musically.
Right. Yeah.
And man, he just seemed to get. He was playing a small kid. And much like Will Kennedy does, he gets a lot out of that small kit. I mean, every instrument is singing in different ways. Yeah. And that's really one thing I appreciated about him, and his ability to sort of lead the timing, which was cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. Then on bass, it was Melvin Lee Davis.
Man.
We all know Melvin, was work with Lee Ritenour, MD, Shaka Khan.
You really can stop there, but you need not, because there's still more.
Shaka Khan. Let us see. It just goes on.
He's made a lot of tons of records.
There's a video that's floating around Facebook recently that is him with Shaka Khan with Vinny Colaiuta on the drums, and Melvin takes a solo and just he murders.
He's a monster, and he's so self-conscious when he gets the chart, he calls back and asks all kinds of questions about the chart. He wants to show order, weeks in advance so he could put. He's just the kind of person you would want to hire because he's so professional and he cares so much.
Yeah,
he cares so much about it being right. That he's asking you about those notes, and I notice here and right. He's always got these things. We go, Melvin, slow down.
I mean, the great thing for him is he would call me all the time about the parts and things like that. And the great thing is it kept me on it.
Yeah,
having someone that's proactive like that, it put me in a position where I knew I couldn't slack. I had to make sure I had it together.
Yeah, when you put together a band, these are the things that you look for too. It's not only their ability to play a certain way, but it's also
let's face it, Melvin. There are a few bass players in the world who can go toe to toe with him just as a bass player.
Sure.
However,
I was going to say you want him to be a team player, and it sounds like he's that. He works with you well. He works with others well. You want to have him on your team.
And that's the thing, is that the thing that people will say about Melvin is that, man, I play better when I'm playing with him.
Yeah.
Like he calls upon me in a different way, and I find myself doing things I don't normally do.
Because of folks like him and Jaden and the horn players that we have, and it gives me the freedom to be able to do things I wouldn't normally be able to do, or put things in the charts I normally wouldn't be. I mean, because one thing, Melvin plays a 7-string bass,
right?
You know what I mean?
So that register that you were talking about,
I can throw in notes that I would never be able to do with somebody that plays, regular 4-string bass. You know what I mean? I can throw in all this extra stuff and know it's going to get played.
Yeah, that he's got the dexterity to play all that stuff.
And
does it help that he is also himself an MD?
Yes, that's just what I was going to say. It helps to know that he's a producer, he's a musical director. You can't get no bigger and better than Shaka Khan.
Yep.
And he's got all this performance experience.
And if you can, it's Lee Ritenour.
But you know what I'm saying? And so that helps. He knows, where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And
it's likely if he plays a 7-string bass, he's probably a keyboardist too.
Yeah, he plays.
I imagine he plays piano.
You know, so he's a bad boy, and plus on the under he sings a little bit too. But he don't
there you go.
get into
I
that.
see.
So he's got the melodic, he's got all the kind of stuff going on. So
Yeah.
he's a monster.
He sees the whole playing field.
He sees the whole thing. And then on guitar is Toshi Yanagi, who's been playing with this forever. Toshi plays in the Jimmy Kimmel Live band, so he's got a lot of bump, walk-on type of experience. And so bad and very flexible in terms of all genres of music.
Here's another musical lesson that we can learn from Toshi that I think our young listeners should really pay heed to. He showed up an hour early, and he said, "This is late for me." So, I mean, a lot of things that we talk about musically are all about the being on stage and all of that stuff. But there is no substitute for being the guy who is always there early.
Yes. And that's basically like all the guys. That's one thing I was really impressed with in the very first gig was like if the call is for 2 o'clock, at 1 o'clock, I call myself going down there an hour early. All the guys are sitting around drinking coffee, reading books. You know what I mean? These are professional, not to... and just coming from the Bay Area, you don't see that a lot, because I don't want to say a lot of people are hobbyists because there are a lot of great musicians in the Bay Area. And that's a whole nother topic about how other people come and they snatch our great musicians for their touring.
That's true.
Because they're really happening. But, there is a lot of that other stuff going on.
We're glad to have you back, Levi.
So these guys are professional. And Toshi... It's like,
he's one of those guys.
He's got a gig.
Yeah.
You see
there
why.
are things that make a musician that much more valuable in a situation. I mean, one of the things that I was taught when I was...
Let's face it, we're talking about things that have made you guys busy all your careers.
And one of those things is to be early is to be on time.
Yeah.
To be on time is to be late.
Yep.
To be late is just damn ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable, really.
Right.
Because all the things that you're talking about, the great performance, the great preparation, the ability to have fun, is all predicated on someone's ability to create because they are relaxed.
They're relaxed.
Yeah.
And when you show up late, you've made people not relax.
Yeah. So these guys are professionals. That's just
well, I'm an MD myself, really thanks to the tutelage of these gentlemen right here and others. But I've had to make choices. It's like I can call the best cat, but the best cat, if he or she is going to show up late, I'm calling the second best or third best, and I'm cool with that, because I know that the best person is not necessarily reliable. I got to move on.
And then in hiring
we've all known
people,
that guy.
In hiring people, you, of course, at the end of the day, you only care about what you did and who you did it with. You had a great time and you go home.
Sure.
And so, like in hiring people, we hire people who, of course, are talented but have great attitudes that are just want to come do the gig. And, and so that's all part of the things that everybody can be at ease and have fun. So, so Toshi is just a great cat on keyboards this year. We had Randy Amato, who's from the Bay Area, who now lives in L.A., and he's a great player. He's got a lot of good energy and a lot of fun. He replaces we originally had Jeff Babco. Jeff Babco is he's Jimmy Kimmel too, but he also is the main keyboard player with James Taylor and Sheryl Crow, and he's a very busy cat. So trying to get him is, we used to have both of them.
You got to sort out that calendar.
Got to sort out that calendar.
It's nice to see guys who've, worked so hard and are that busy.
But part of it is what Larry was talking about, the attitude. Them being great people, great personalities, easy to work with. If we got to talk about some things, it's not. I mean, one of the things that I'm guilty of in the rehearsals is that Larry is so good at picking the guys that got great attitudes. Sometimes we all get in trouble, including myself. We get in trouble because we get into these like crazy telling jokes and stuff. And Larry's like, "Come on, man, we got to get through this."
We got work to do.
The vibe winds up being way too cool sometimes.
That's easier to correct than the other thing, though. When it's the other direction, that's difficult.
We cracked it with pretty good. We were like Jeff Babco. I love him because, he's doing a lot of big stuff. But if he has to tell me that he can't make it, he sounds so heartbroken. It's all, he has to be just nice to everybody, just and that's so cool. And just he has so much opportunity, but he always makes your gig seem like it's the priority and it's really important. And that's a really good attitude to have. So Randy's great. We've been knowing Randy for years and stuff. And so he's the keyboard player. And, he's good. He's good vibes.
Yeah. I sang on a ton of his projects. He used to do a lot of production here in the Bay Area. He lived in San Jose. And I would go there and do vocals for him on the regular nights, moved to L.A.
Yeah, great producer. I mean, really fast. He knows his gig.
Really fast.
Yeah. I mean, as a singer, we were also vocalists.
Yeah.
And so, you go to do a session and you get ready to do the next thing. He's already ready.
He's ready.
What?
Yeah.
We just said, let's do it again. Yep, I'm there. Boom. It's like, and that really makes time go by so quick. And
this is, another thing that people who aren't musicians don't realize is that in the world of music making, you can't beat the people. You just cannot beat the people, man. I've done a lot of things, for work in my life, and there are a lot of occupations that call upon different talents. In the world of music, you just can't beat the people. Everybody is there's a different level of caring that you have when you collaborate with somebody musically. There's a different level of consideration to make sure that people are okay in the process, and it just really brings out the beauty of people.
Yeah. On percussion is Luis Conte.
Oh, come on.
Luis Conte has played on over
legend
3,000 or 4,000 records.
Yeah.
And pretty much what's funny about him is almost everybody who we've honored as a recipient of the Les Paul, he played on their records.
That's true.
So it's amazing. He knows everybody, and he's just a great guy. Another good vibe is always, hey, whatever you want, blah, blah, blah. What time you want me? Is it okay for me to use the restroom? It's like, yeah, go ahead, that kind of thing. So, and he's just a major cat who also plays with James Taylor and tours with him, that kind of stuff. So,
and I will say there's been so many iconic recordings that he's played on that you probably, if you have anything to do with drums or percussion, he is your hero and you don't realize it yet.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That guy's amazing.
This particular gig was really cool. He and I hooked up. There were a couple of extra little percussion parts. And he says, man, you going to play these percussion parts? I said, no, man. He said, no. He says, you're going to play these percussion parts. I said, no, man. Here. I mean, just to have somebody like that who had confidence in me as a player to be able to say, hey, man, you're going to come here and play this cowbell on this Montuno. You're going to, do all of
yeah.
This is really cool.
Yeah.
It's a great personality.
Yeah. So our horn section, Anthony Bacero, who's plays in a bunch of Latin bands and just killer dude, another great spirit and attitude. He's a professor.
His band nominated for a Grammy a few years
they
ago?
were nominated for Latin Grammys and stuff. And so great trumpet player. We have a new trombone player this year named Nick Daly, who just came in and was just flawless and great attitude. And he was recommended by Anthony. And then
it's nothing like a great horn section where everybody knows each other.
Yes,
it's the other thing that I want to say about the trombone. Thank you, Nick. Is it's serious when a trombone player shows up, because when you have a horn section that's just that's missing that part of the register.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a bunch of trumpet players who can come in, get the job done.
Yeah.
When the trombone shows up, it's a different kind of chord.
Yeah.
And it's suddenly a transformative thing for the horn section.
Well, for us, we started off.
You started off playing a trombone.
Yeah, I was trombone major.
I was saxophone.
Yeah.
And so for us, it's
saxophone or bass clarinet?
Well, I started playing clarinet, bass clarinet, then I progressed to oboe and saxophone.
There we go.
Yeah.
So you guys having a horn section is an important part of the voicing of your arrangements.
We're great at horn arrangements, and arrangers, and that's we grew up playing horns, having a horn section.
Yeah.
And so
I didn't make that trombone comment to pull your chain. Although
I'm glad you made it.
I mean, I would.
There's a lot of trombone.
I'm not
jokes.
I'm not above it. Tell us a trombone joke. Is there a trombone joke?
Oh no, I'm restricted. I don't do that.
I always like what they call a guy who hangs around with musicians? The drummer. I know the drummer jokes. What
that was one of the trombone jokes.
Yeah. But anyway, the round out the horn section is Charles McNeil.
Okay.
Charles McNeil's from the Bay Area that now lives in Las Vegas. He is a monster and a sweetheart. Just great guy. But he plays with Lyle Lovett, and he's very busy in demand, but he makes time for us, and I appreciate that.
Terrific.
Which is always great for me, having been a saxophone player, to hear somebody with that tone.
Who can really deliver it for you.
Yeah.
That's, man. Well, like we said, the situation was not ideal when we got there. You guys made up for the lost time. The show was fantastic, flawless. I won't say it was flawless. There were flaws in the show. Thank goodness the band was able to, cover the holes.
Well, you got to cover. You have the, like I said, expected, unexpected. There's always things. There was a few times where one guy came up. I think the award was for the score of Black Panther. He'd actually done the soundtrack, the tracks. Yeah. But he hadn't done the score. And so they announced the winner of the score, and the record producer ran up and go, "Oh, shit. This is not my award." And plus, by that time, they were drunk, so they was, So, but anyway.
Hilarity ensues.
Things like that. But I think you have to kind of leave room for some of that stuff.
Yeah.
That happens.
It was kind of neat to have that for the looseness of the TEC Awards. I think that little bit of levity, those kind of moments make the TEC Awards something special, because it's almost like the Grammys, it's almost like the Oscars, but it takes itself a little less seriously. Yeah. And it's for the musicians and engineers and the software guys and the hardware guys and the real behind the scenes stuff. And to be able to appreciate it at a level where everybody gets their due, but everybody gets to laugh a little bit too and have a good time.
Yeah, to me it's a really important show, because you got the Grammys, but those are the artists. You got a lot of his PR, it's all that kind of stuff. But these are the cats who are inventing the software and all the things that make the artists fabulous. Yep. You know what I mean? And so these people rarely get recognition. That's why I have to do research to figure out who they are. Then you realize, oh man, this dude's a genius. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so for them to get their due, for me, it's a really important show. These people are recognized, and so they come up, they don't have the flair and all that kind of stuff. And
it's a lot of nerds in the room.
A lot of nerds
it's
and stuff.
Cool too.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely, and I'm not being anything but appreciative, because I mean, these guys have given us all the stuff that we rave about. And that make your jobs easier, and they give you some flexibility to do things, and that's to some degree we take for granted.
Exactly.
Because a lot of those guys who would be considered in any other industry an old timer, they're still around and they're still working every day. And
it's good, just a situation where they get their due, they deserve to do. Yeah, and it's just fun to be a part of that. Part of that situation is just totally fun to be a part of.
I don't think people, at least the layperson doesn't truly appreciate the talent of someone like a Peter Frampton. Yeah. You know what I mean? Just, again, what he did with the talk box and his ability to, stand, be a singer, also his, ability as a guitar player, band leader, all of this stuff. He's toured for years. He really innovated music in so many ways. I only recently found out that the song he had called I'm in You, which is a great song. Right. Stevie Wonder's actually playing keyboards on that song. I didn't know that. I just found it out recently. So, I mean, these guys recognize talent from each other, from years ago. Lindsey
here's what's
Buckingham
happening
from
in the
Fleetwood
audience
Mac.
right now. Our listeners are going, James, are you kidding me, man? Everybody knows Peter Frampton. That's not what James is talking about, y'all. What really is happening is that everybody loves Peter Frampton. That's true. Everybody appreciates that music. Hey, let's face it. There's a lot of listeners out there that were probably conceived in the back seat of a of a Buick to Peter Frampton had something to do with it. But the ability for the folks who have upheld his show by giving him the tools, for everybody in the industry to say, "Hey, Peter, way to go," that means something different. And that's what we're talking about. It's not that Peter Frampton has never had any recognition. It's just it's different when it comes from your peers.
Your peers,
from your,
appreciate the way you use the technology.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Well, I'm a musician now myself because of Stevie Wonder, Paul McCartney. You mentioned you honored him.
Jimmy Jam,
Lindsey.
Terry Lewis, we honored them.
Man.
There's so many great people.
I met Jimmy Jam there was a thing at Roland last summer, and I found myself in the hallway having to get out of the way because somebody was bringing something through, and I realized that the something that somebody was bringing something through was Jimmy Jam.
Right.
So I had to go to say hi to him and say thank you for all of the times that he helped me get lucky on a Friday night.
Another nice guy. I mean, like all these people who really, really successful. Are good people. I mean, they, it's only these other people who are trying to be something they're not.
Sure.
But they don't have that kind of staying power. And what I want to say for our young listeners who go, Jimmy Jam, I've heard of that name. Listen, go look up Jimmy Jam's Wikipedia. Here's the funny thing is there's a list of all the chart toppers that he's produced. And I think X is the only letter in the alphabet that's not represented in his list of top 10 songs.
Phenomenal musician.
Just
and a really great guy.
Ridiculous amount of success. And always, like I said, I had to get out of the way because they were bringing some stuff through. But when I walked up to him, I didn't have any business walking up to him. I don't know him, but I wanted to tell him a story that meant a lot to me because my cousin Daryl, who James knows very well, we had a studio up in Fairfield called Rhythm City. And when we first set up all the gear, we said, man, these walls are pretty bare. We should try to get some stuff on the walls. So we called Paisley Park. And we said, hey, can you guys send us anything? It was before the mpg.com and you could buy all kinds of stuff. We were like, hey, I understand we're not asking for anything for free. Is there any way we can get a poster or something from the studio? Because we wanted studio stuff,
Yeah.
And they were like, no, we can't help you. Sorry. And then we called Flight Time. And the person we spoke to at Flight Time said, yeah, let me get your names. And let me get your address. I don't know what we can do, but we'll see what we can do. And they ended up sending us a 8x10. And signed it, and we put it in a frame and hung it in the studio. And they didn't have to do any of that. They didn't charge us any money or anything. They just kind of wanted to see the
good people.
See the craft.
Good people.
In the hands of younger people.
I remember the time I first met Jimmy, it was in Hawaii. I was at a trustees meeting with the Recording Academy, and we get there. Of course, my kids were really small, and the first thing we want to do is get in the pool, right? And so we're at the Kealani in Maui, beautiful resort, and not many black people there. And my kids are in the pool, and I see this little black boy in the pool. And so we had this little tube or something. And so my kid got on the tube, and this little black boy got on the tube. And I said, okay, I'm going to be the train. And I said, okay, I'm going to be the engine. You guys hop on board. So I got in the front, and then I heard this voice say, okay, if you're the engine, I'm the caboose. And I looked up, and it was Jimmy Jam. And the little black boy was his boy. Wow. And so that's how we met. Two big black men, really vulnerable because we're big as hell and we only wear shorts. So we go, okay. Wow. But we just had fun all afternoon with our kids, and later on we met and stuff. So just
Yeah.
Just good people.
He's a great guy, man.
He's a great guy. And another situation, they were honoring Janet Jackson at a luncheon one day, and I was there, and of course Jimmy Jam and them were there, and Babyface and Babyface. They were supposed to be honoring Janet, but he started talking about Jimmy Jam. And he says, "God," and they talk about how they met with Clarence Avant and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And then he says, "The thing is, I really love about Jimmy is, I had a chance to talk to him the first time, and I says, man, with all the accomplishments you've had, what do you want to be remembered for?" And he thought he was going to say, this hit, that hit, or whatever. And he said, "I just want people to say I was a nice guy." And so that just said everything about, who he was, so.
Yeah. Well, he brings out the best in the artists he works with, and that's, visibly reason why.
We were talking about that earlier, about that art of producers being able to bring out the best in singing these younger producers. That art is being lost. Do
you remember when that's what producing was? That's what producing was.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to make everything sound good, but part of the producing process for the, guys who've done it years and years past, when you would get the whole band to record straight to 2-track or even to mono. You didn't get all kinds of technical stuff. It was like we got to make sure that everybody emotionally is in place, is prepared, and gets this right.
Well, they took time to. I think the gig of the producers is make the artist's vision come true. So it's a lot of like, who are you? What do you want to sound like? What statement are you trying to make? And so that's why, like, with the time we grew up, when a record came on, whether we heard it for the first time or not, we knew it was Aretha. Nobody sounded like her. We knew, that's Gladys. Nobody sound like Gladys. All artists, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah. Al Green, Marvin Gaye.
They all had their own sound and their own vision and their own thing that they were doing, and that's somehow that changed to where it became all about the producer. Where, okay, you got my track, and they shout out their name in the first 4 bars, and all the tracks sound alike. You don't know one artist from another, and that type of thing. So maybe I'm old school, but that's what I loved about that time, is when the producer sat down and go, okay, who do you want to be? What do you want to sound like? Are you creating this thing for you? Another Jimmy Jam story, just 'cause I spent a lot of time with him, is when he first got the Janet project. And she came to Minneapolis, and for 3 weeks, they went to the movies, they went skating, they went all this
They didn't
stuff.
do any recording.
They didn't do any recording, and finally she said, "Hey fellas, when are we going to start working?" And they said, "We are." Working, because all she talked about was being in the shadow of her brothers and what she wanted to do, whatever. And when she finally heard the tracks, it was Control.
Yeah.
And it was all the things that she'd been talking about.
Informed the project.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was an absolutely
so they created,
transformative project for her.
They created the sound that she wanted and what she wanted, because she had put out an album before for
They
A&M.
really made her an artist.
Yeah, and it was the first album she did was real bubblegum. They had all these. They didn't know who she was.
Well, actually, I might say a little different. They didn't make her artist. They gave her an opportunity to be an artist.
Right? Yes.
Okay. They took the time to figure out who she was, and what her artistry was, and showcased that.
Well, she actually lived with Jimmy Jam for that summer.
Yes,
he had a big house, of course, I imagine, and he had a back room that she could have access in and out in his mansion, I'm sure. And so, but she lived
in the apartment.
Yeah. So they could, but honestly, they were getting to know her, like you said, so that they could bond and that their music would be incredible instead of just another song coming out.
Right, exactly.
And it's no different than getting to know, as you guys have a process and can do the things that fill the holes. Like you said, when Larry was busy making up for time because the gear had gotten there late, you were able to understand all the stuff that needed to get done that Larry wasn't working on, and could just fill everything in, and you develop a shorthand when you work with somebody so that you get all those things right. And when you have a producer who cares about you in that way, you really have the best opportunity to make something special.
Yeah. And on that note, I mean, I was just going to remind everybody that Claytoven is a phenomenal vocal producer. I mean, to watch this man work with singers, you can honestly get chills just watching him work and listening to what happens, what he can do with harmony and the way he instructs singers to, you do this, you do that. Really, I mean, it could bring a tear to your eye how beautiful it sounds. You know that, Larry.
Well, Claytoven, I actually gave him the name Claytoven because his name is Clayton Richardson, but that just wasn't enough. You know, for me, Claytoven is a genius, and he's inspired me in so many ways. I think I'm the most blessed man on earth that we happen to live close to each other, that we connected and we was able to work together. And some days I just look at him and go like, did that really come out of your mouth? It's just like,
Makes two blessed men on earth. I'm equally as blessed to us.
You know, I always tell them when I count my blessings, I count you twice.
Yeah.
Well, y'all clearly fell off the same tree, which is a beautiful thing. In music, it's good to have a partner that you have a shorthand with, and obviously you guys have that. Yeah, very necessary.
That's a blessing.
Well, I'm going to say this. I am elated that you guys would do this show. I'm really honored to be able to capture the experience of, something a little about throwing this TEC Awards show and providing the music in a way that's so dynamic and allows for the show to happen and kind of ties the whole show together. Mm-hmm. And it's a tremendous responsibility for all the music nerds like myself to be able to say, man, we could go to the TEC Awards, and if there's one thing you must count on in these TEC Awards is that band's got to be hitting hard and really got to get it right, and you guys have gotten it right year after year after year, and I can't say enough about that. I can't say enough about the NAMM show for just being a place where musicians can understand each other in the way that we can fraternize while we're there. Yeah. And the TEC Awards is a really, really special part of it. And you guys are the glue that holds the TEC Awards together.
Thank you.
I mean, I have one NAMM story to tell you.
All right.
A few years ago, they were going to come out with a brand new Rhodes. Rhodes were coming out with a brand new kind of more tech-savvy Rhodes. Uh-huh. So I'm walking the floor, and I see this new Rhodes. I say, I got to go check this out. So I go up on where they have the Rhodes, and so I'm playing, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And so I start getting into it, and I start playing Stevie Wonder's tune, Golden Lady, because I love how, in the end, how it keeps modulating.
Yeah.
To different keys. So I got my eyes closed, and I'm just jamming. And then all of a sudden, I hear another cat jamming. And I'm like, dang, the sales guys is getting it. So I got my eyes closed, and we're just jamming. And finally we get to kind of like the end, and all of a sudden people start cheering. I'm like, wait a minute, there wasn't nobody here. I look out, people cheering, and I turn around, and the whole time I've been jamming with Stevie Wonder. And didn't know it. Wow. And he says, oh man, I really love the way you played my song. It was just really nice.
He must have. He stopped and played it with you.
You know what I'm saying? I was
that's
like, wow,
amazing.
That was so cool.
Yeah. And that's a great song. You're right.
There are really few NAMM stories that sweet, though.
Yeah,
that's really nice. Yeah. Stuff like that happens, those little serendipitous meetings. A lot of times you just be happy to say, I was at NAMM and I saw Stevie Wonder.
Right.
But you were there and you were playing Golden Lady, and he walked up on you and got up.
Didn't even know.
Shared a moment with you. Yeah, Stevie was 21 when he recorded that song.
Wow.
And it's a classic. It truly is incredible. When I listen to all, songs in the Key of Life and everything, what was that album? Was Intervision.
Yeah,
just phenomenal record, man.
Yeah, that was he used one of my most favorite arrangers of all time, Claire Fisher.
Oh, man.
Oh, that was Claire.
On a lot of those songs.
Wow. That was Prince's arranger,
Yeah, Claire was bad, boy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know who was the first person to bring up Claire Fisher? And I was unfamiliar with Claire Fisher until I was schooled by Dwayne Wiggins. I guess Claire Fisher did the string arrangements on
Anniversary.
Yeah, on Anniversary.
Anniversary.
Probably Southern California too. That song.
Yeah.
It never rains in Southern California.
Yes.
You know what I found out?
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah. What I found out also, just from some of my industry connections, the original drummer for Shaka Khan, Andre Fisher.
Yes.
That's Claire Fisher's nephew.
Wow.
I never knew that either.
Yeah, Rufus and Shaka Khan. Yeah, Andre Fisher.
Andre Fisher.
Yeah.
Where by the way, is Andre Fisher?
Well, he played with Rufus for years, and then he
Yeah.
left, and he became an executive for, I think, Universal Records.
Okay.
And then he just, I don't know, he's doing
Well, he
industry
married
stuff now.
Natalie Cole.
That's right.
And they ended up doing that comeback.
That's right.
The big
jazz
record.
Unforgettable,
Yeah.
and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Right.
So he had some success there.
Mm-hmm.
But let's see.
Okay.
Last I heard from him, it's probably been a year or two.
Oh, you know Andre as well.
Well, he was on the one of the board members when I was a
Oh, wow.
board member with
Okay.
the Recording Academy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once again, the bar is high.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to button it up by saying because we've been on for an hour and 10, and this is the part
Oh,
two
my
of
God.
of the 30 minutes we got down in Anaheim. But man, I can't say enough about my admiration for the show that you guys have put together, and for the fact that you further the notion that the people in the music industry who have been a part of it for so long and who make a living out of spreading joy through music are just wonderful to be around.
Yeah.
I also have some ribs in the oven I haven't checked on in quite a long time, and we're going to check those
I ain't
out.
starting terrible.
Right, exactly.
But I just want to thank James for dropping in.
Thank you, brother.
On short notice.
What an
Thank you for
extra
inviting
treat.
James. That was great.
Yeah.
James is one of my heroes.
I knew you guys would
yeah.
get a kick out of it.
Yeah, he's just badass and just a nice guy, like all the
Yeah.
other
Oh,
Jesus
man.
we were
Yeah.
talking about.
Well, I was happy to be a fly on the wall while these phenomenal guys were in your studio, so I'm happy to be here.
yeah.
Thank you.
So, anyway, we can't thank you enough. Ladies and gentlemen, Larry Batiste, Claytoven Richardson, we want to thank NAMM. We want to thank the TEC Awards. Stay tuned. I'm going to try and rope you guys in anytime that you guys are doing something. We absolutely want to promote it. And now that I know that I'm equidistant between the two of you,
Yes.
I'll provide you with a meeting point where there will be hors d'oeuvres.
We know there might be ribs involved. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.